Today's recipe calls for the sous vide stick once again. I'm going to show you how to make sous vide potatoes. They're really buttery and garlicky and creamy and just super tasty. So with that said, let's get started.
The first thing we need to do before we start this simple but delicious recipe is talk about the sous vide stick. You'll notice it has a minimum and maximum line on it. We want to shoot for somewhere in the middle. Now that's out of the way, grab a vessel of your choosing. Use a large pot or any large container that the sous vide stick will attach to the side of. Fill the water holder up with some H2O. Like mentioned before, fill it to the middle. We want to shoot for this because once we add the bag of spuds to the water, the liquid level is going to rise. This should give us enough clearance without things overflowing, making a huge mess. Once the container has been filled with the clear liquid, set the temp on the sous vide to 190 Fahrenheit or 87 degrees Celsius. To help keep the moisture and heat in, toss a lid atop of the vessel. This step is optional. Place a half tray underneath the container. I will say it's easier to do this before you fill it with the water, but I forgot, obviously. I like doing this because I believe it'll help protect my butcher's block from the high heat and long period of time that it'll be on there. It's your house, so do as you wish. While the water is warming up, we can prep the potatoes out. Grab yourself 1 pound, 8 ounces, or 680 grams of baby Dutch yellow potatoes. Alternatively, you can also use small Yukon Gold, fingerling potatoes, or even mini red potatoes. If you can't find any small starchy things, russet potatoes will work as well. You'll just have to cut them into bite-sized pieces that are roughly medium in size. If you're using the mini small potatoes like I am, simply cut them in half lengthwise. Once cut, transfer the goods over to a large holding device. To help build flavor, grab a medium-sized yellow onion. Cut the top off of the veg, which is the opposite end of the hairy side. Next, split the onion into 2 sections. We'll only be using half, so save the other half for another recipe. After you've made the difficult choice of choosing the better half of the two, make 1/4-inch slices of the thing that makes some people cry. Once you've wiped away the salty tears, toss the onion into the same bowl that holds the potatoes. Snag yourself 6 medium to large size garlic cloves. Using the flat side of your chef's knife, lay the hurt down and smash each piece of the vampire repellent. Following the smash, cut both ends off each clove. This makes it easier to peel the paper skins off. After that's been done, you may need to give the cloves another whack or two if they aren't squished enough. We want them to be crushed, so during the cooking process, they will release the delicious flavors they hold. Toss them into the bowl that has the rest of the goods. To the bowl, we'll add about 2 teaspoons of a neutral tasting oil that has a high smoke point. This should be enough oil to coat everything that's in the bowl. Give the stuffs a quick mixer to cover it in the fat. Following that, season the veg with a few good pinches of coarse ground kosher salt and some black pepper. Mix the bowl of goods around to spread the seasoning throughout. Our potatoes are ready to go. Find yourself a bag to toss them into. You can use a regular freezer zip top style bag, or in my case, I'll be using a reusable vacuum sealed bag. Whatever you decide to use, ensure it's large enough to hold all of the product, which will help give us an even cook because things will not overlap one another too much. It should be about a gallon in size. To help transfer the food from one holding device to another, fully open your bag up and do your best to make it sit flat on your work surface. After spending about 20 minutes trying to make it sit and stay in one place, fill it with the potato mixture. Scoop a few pieces at a time or be risky and dump it in. After you've put everything in, flatten the goods out into one nice even layer as best as you can. The last thing we need to do is add some more flavor by adding 3 tablespoons of unsalted butter. Cut the fat into whatever shape your heart desires. I went with small cubes. This way I had more small pieces to spread throughout the bag. Place them in different spots. After the butter has been added, zip it closed. Vacuum seal your bag if you have that option. If not, use the water displacement method, which means you'll take your bag of spuds and slowly submerge it into the container that has the water. Ensure you have a small opening at the top of the bag so all the air can escape when you do this. Submerge it till it hits the opening at the top. Once you're here, zip it completely closed. It's a homemade version of a vacuum sealer. If you want a visual of how it's done, go check out my sous vide chicken video. Now that has all been taken care of, pop the top off and gently throw the bag of deliciousness into the water bath. place a weight on top of the potatoes to prevent them from floating. This way we achieve a proper and even cook. You'll want to use something that can handle the heat. Place the lid back on top to keep the heat and moisture in for the best results. Also, use some type of grabbing tool if you want to reach into the water. Trust me, I learned the hard way. I guess I'm just not as tough as I used to be now that I'm in my old age. When you add the food to the water, the temp is going to drop. We need to allow it to come back up to temp before we start the cooking timer. Once it gets back to the 190 Fahrenheit or 87 degrees Celsius, we can set the timer for 1 full hour. Now we wait for things to cook. You can get a lot done in an hour. Maybe catch up on the dishes or make another side dish or add a protein to make this into a full meal of sorts. You can also take a little nappy nap or do whatever. I recommend occasionally checking on things to ensure everything is going according to plan. Make sure the bag isn't floating, ensure the sous vide still has power, and also check the cook timer while you're at it. Other than that, it's hands off for a while. Once the buzzer rings, use a pair of tongs to pull the bag of potatoes out of the water. The best way to check and see if they are done is lightly push on a few of the spuds. They should be really tender in texture. When they are pushed on, they will give under the pressure and start to mash. If they do this, then you know they are done cooking. Pull your sous vide stick out of the water. Let it completely air dry on a towel before you put it away. Now back to the veggies. You can do a few things now that they are fully cooked. Either eat them the way they are out of the bag, or do what I did by making them crispy as well as giving them some color, which will also provide flavor. If you want to do the same thing, snag a small bowl with a fine mesh strainer. Pour the goods into the catcher. Save the buttery liquid for later. Allow as much of the liquid to drain off as possible. While that's doing its thing, let's jump over to the cooking square. First thing we need to do is move the wire rack up as close to the broiler as possible. When you have that done, turn your oven to broiler mode and set it to high. Let that thing get nice and hot. In the meantime, snag a half tray, give it a little spray down with some cooking oil. Wipe off any of the excess oil. Transfer the potatoes over to the sheet pan. Before we toss them into the oven, ensure each potato is cut side up so we can achieve that sweet golden brown color. Also, treat yourself to a little snack, then adjust the seasoning as needed with some more coarse ground kosher salt. When things are good to go, grab the tray and huck that thingy into the oven box. Set a timer to cook the goods for 15 to 17 minutes or until they become a nice golden color. Halfway through the cooking time, rotate the pan to achieve an even browning effect. When the buzzer rings, pull the tray of spuds out of the heat. Pour the buttery liquid over the spuds and give it a good mix-up to coat everything in the fat. As you can see, the onions have burned, which is no problem. Just toss them out. If you want to keep/eat them, pull the onions and garlic off the tray before you broil the potatoes. Any Hoosiers, our sous vide spuds are done. Eat them right off the tray, or use them for steak and eggs, or even pair them with some fish and veg. Whatever you decide to do, just enjoy.
Alright, now that our sous vide potatoes are done, let's give them the old taste-a-room. So looking at them, they came out super aesthetically pleasing. That broil that we put on them gave us that sweet golden brown color. That leftover butter liquid stuff that we poured over the top makes them glisten and shine in the light to make them look even more delicious looking. The parsley on top is extra, but it makes it look bougie, like you need to stick out your pinky when you eat them. They also look like they're going to be really creamy and soft and delicious in texture. So yeah, they just look really good. And you can see a little bit of onion as well in there. And yeah, let's give them a shot. I love potatoes in general, and these things came out so dang good. They're nice and rich and flavorful and fatty. We get a ton of richness and flavor from the potato themselves, and then we get a ton of fat and richness from our butter and olive oil that we added. During the cooking process, the spuds soaked that up to make them super tasty, and it also took on the flavor of the onion and garlic to make them really flavorful. It's not overpowering by any means, it's nice and faint and in the background and really plays well with the potato. The salt we added helps enhance all that deliciousness. That caramelization that we got on the outside brings a ton of goodness to the table as well. And that butter drizzle stuff that we added on top also makes it super tasty, even though it's not that great for you. But anyways, texture-wise, they're nice and creamy and fluffy and just melt in your mouth. It's pretty insane how good they are. This recipe is super simple to knock out. I think the hardest part is just waiting for the water to come up to temp and for them to cook for so long, but it's well worth it in the end. And you can easily customize this recipe to fit your needs or your flavor profile that you're going for. Maybe get rid of the onion and use a whole head of garlic, or make them spicy by adding some red pepper flakes, or maybe add some lemon zest to add that acid that would play so well with the richness and fattiness of it all. So hopefully you enjoyed today's video. Thanks for watching. And I gotta go find a steak so I can eat these potatoes with them, because that sounds super tasty right now. So I'm gonna go do that, and we'll see you on the next one. Broiling, broil, berry. Breathing so hard on the plate, the parsley just goes everywhere. And inviting, like you just want to eat them, because that's why we made them. Glistening and shiny in the light. Follow the light. The potatoes during the cooking process. Am I Canadian? Hardest part is waiting for the water